Hello once again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Do It Yourself Budget Hot Rodding, where we talk about Project Spirit and changing out her 1970s exhaust manifold. But before we can do that, there's been a major influx of brand new supporters to the Maverick Nation, and many of you new supporters have fallen in love with good old Project Spirit. And even some of you have said that you yourselves want to undertake putting a classic car back on the road that you can enjoy every day. But with that being said, let me say right now up front, Project Spirit didn't exactly start off as ooh la la. We had to put a lot of time and effort into the old girl, and believe it or not, this was Project Spirit when we first brought her home. Yeah, that was the old girl. Let me say that one of the major things that we're going for, despite the age, her engine was still good and solid. There's still a lot of solid stuff in there. And once we got the dirt cleared away, we knew where to begin. So, let me say right now, if you yourself are wanting to undertake a project like Project Spirit, it isn't all just about slapping paint on them. You have to put a lot of time and effort into these cars, and to get from what you just seen to where you see her today, we put a lot of wrench time, Princess Faye and I did, and she spent a lot of time in and out of shops. But it was well worth it. That being said, let's get to the real meat and potatoes of what we're actually going to be doing. Alright folks, this is Project Spirit's brand new exhaust manifold. It's actually designed for the inline 200 out of the 1960s, and there's Project Spirit's old exhaust manifold, and that was actually what they used in the 1970s. We're going to talk about the benefits of doing this swap, why we did this swap, and of course what it took to actually do this swap. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the fact that you already see brand new bolts holding that old exhaust manifold into place. Well, let me explain what actually happened. Project Spirit had to go over to a shop here in Bonne Terre, and that shop is known as Torque Diesel and Auto. The guys over at Torque Diesel and Auto literally had to break off every last one of those bolts holding that exhaust manifold into place. When they did this, they obviously had to drill out the old bolts and tap in brand new threads. Now, some of you might be saying, wow, Prince Magna, I bet that was expensive. It did get expensive. This is a commonplace issue with these old engines, and a lot of shops won't touch tapping in new threads into heads on an engine because you could get too close to a water jacket inside that head. So a lot of shops won't touch it, and usually you have to pull the head, send it over to a machine shop, but that's not what happened in this particular case. The guys over there felt confident enough that they could do it, and I gave them the go-ahead to go ahead and do it. And by doing this, it saved me a lot of headaches when Project Spirit got home. All I had to do then was remove the bolts, drop everything out of place, and work the new exhaust manifold into place. So believe me when I say that this was a major improvement that we had to do in the long run, because this old exhaust manifold was actually showing serious signs of exhaust leaks and would not pass inspection for the time for what's coming up soon. We're going to be taking Project Spirit for her last inspection so she can get her historical plates. The next thing that should also be noted about Project Spirit is you'll actually see on these old manifolds these crimped off tubes. This is a commonplace fix that we would have seen back in the day, and what those tubes were actually for was part of the old EGR equipment system that was in there, the old smog system or the old emissions system. These systems that were on these old cars, and even still to this day, are super restrictive and actually take away from the performance of the engine and actually cause more problems than you would believe. Ironically enough, what those tubes were for was to take old the exhaust that was being dumped out of the engine, pumped back into the engine to reburn some of the gasoline that did not burn off the first time through. Now, the reason why they did that is because in the 1970s, we discovered that 60% of the gasoline that went into your engine was not burned and was just dumped out in vapor form out of your exhaust. So the thought process was pump some of that exhaust back in and burn those vapors, but we found that didn't work as well as it should have. What typically happened was, by doing this process, it choked the engine, and these old engines didn't live up to the potential that they actually had. So what guys like me would do is we would remove the equipment and crimp off what we needed to and everything, get rid of the leaks. And what typically happened from there was we seen that the old engine without that EGR equipment, oftentimes because of the low compression that it already was, and by removing that equipment, the engine actually really came to life. You'll actually see an improvement in performance all the way around, and you'll actually see an improvement in gas mileage, believe it or not. If you want to see a better improvement, make it changes to the electronic ignition system, have your carburetor rebuilt with precision equipment, and if you yourself are not that good at it, have it done by a professional. So by doing this, we'll see an improvement in performance and we'll see an improvement in gas mileage. Now, I already hear some of you asking the question, why didn't I go and find an exhaust header or have one made for Project Spirit? And you're absolutely right, I could have done that. But the problem becomes with exhaust headers, if you go to just buy one from a company, they run into the problems that all of them used to have. You're constantly blowing gaskets, and even using exhaust manifold gaskets on the headers and double gasketing, they're still notorious for blowing them. Project Spirit's designed to be an everyday driver, and by using an exhaust header, I would constantly be having to change gaskets, so this is just not in the cards. The other issue is by going over to an exhaust header, I would have immediately had to take Project Spirit over and have brand new exhaust immediately put on her. So this was not in the cards. Right now, we still need to use what's left of her old exhaust just long enough to get her inspected, and then we're going to start looking at a performance exhaust system. Now, as I already mentioned, I could have had one made, but you're talking an awful lot of money to have someone fabricate one from scratch. So this was, again, not in the cards because I haven't got that kind of cash. But with the new exhaust manifold that we're going to be putting into place, again, we're still going to see an improvement in performance. We're going to eliminate those exhaust leaks, and it's going to look a lot cleaner under there without the crimped off tubes and everything. So when it comes time to take Project Spirit to a car show, you'll see that in the long run, all in all, this was a major improvement that'll still fit my budget and will just be a major improvement to this old engine in the long run. And believe me when I say that performance and gas mileage go up, I'm not kidding you in the least little bit. Project Spirit already averages 40 miles to the gallon on the highway. This improvement might actually see another 2 to 3 extra miles to the gallon on the highway. It's not going to be a major improvement, but it's going to be an improvement. And when I talk performance, we're not kidding. So, in the next section, you're actually going to see the steps that we took in putting the new exhaust manifold into place before we just slapped it up there. Okay, the first thing that we need to talk about is, I did not just throw this exhaust manifold up onto Project Spirit's engine because of the simple fact this exhaust manifold suffers the same problem that all of them suffer. They're mass-produced and they're not perfect. I mean, they'll work just fine, and even if you bought a brand new car, I could pretty well guarantee the moment you got that, got your new car home, and if you remove the exhaust manifold, you'll find the same problems on your exhaust manifold, the same as you did back in the 1960s, and shoot, probably even further back than that, probably all the way back to the old Model Ts. The problem with exhaust manifolds are that they're restrictive, yes, and one of the major reasons why they're restrictive is because they're not perfect. So, even though this bolts up perfectly, for the most part, to Project Spirit's engine, the ports are not perfect. So what I did was I broke out my rotary tool, got a good grinding stone, and went to work on those on the new ports. And what you're seeing me actually doing is opening those ports up, removing excess material, so there's nothing in the way of exhaust flow. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and quote Stacy David of Gears. If you've ever seen his show, you know one of the things that he constantly talks about is the fact that your engine is just a giant air pump. Gasoline fuels that air pump, but it's a giant air pump. Air goes in and bad air leaves. Okay, so now that we have just discussed that, remember, we have already opened up Project Spirit's air filter assembly so she breathes a little bit better, but now by opening up these exhaust ports, her engine will actually breathe even better than before. So by doing this step, we'll see an improvement in performance, we'll see an improvement in gas mileage, and of course we'll see an improvement in longevity because we made sure that her engine breathes just a little bit easier. Folks, by taking this extra step, this is just a minor improvement that'll show great gains in the long run. So, if you yourself are in possession of an old engine, you're rebuilding it, and you don't want the hassles of an exhaust header that constantly is blowing gaskets, this may be an option for you. Finding a set of good exhaust manifolds and reconditioning them to what you need. Now, while we're on the subject again of exhaust manifolds, again, I know some people are saying an exhaust header would have been better, but again, for the inline sixes, they don't get, they suffer the problems that old exhaust headers used to suffer for V8s, and that was constantly blowing gaskets. Yes, they still blow gaskets, but it's not as much as it used to be. And that's just in part that a lot of people complained about it and the manufacturers did something about it. Well, the inline six has lagged behind because it's not been a popular style of engine yet. But now that we've discussed that and we've discussed the pros of reconditioning one, again, this is not going to be an exhaust header, but it'll get you in the ballpark area. Remember, the reason why exhaust headers are preferred is because how well they help an engine breathe. But again, it was just not in my budget. This was, and by showing you this, I can show all of you how to save yourself a little bit of money in the long run on your daily driven classic. Okay, folks, what you actually see right now in this video clip is I've lightly sanded the flat black paint off. I've primed it and hit that new exhaust manifold with a high temp BHT paint. The paint that I typically use for that silver color under the hood is universal silver. So if you yourself are looking at doing this particular project, you now know. The reason why I did this is not just because it's going to look amazing, but because it'll help get engine heat away from Project Spirit's original inline 6. When I say that, remember, heat and engine components do not mix well together. So by taking this extra step, not only is it going to help her look good, but it's going to help with the improving performance, the longevity of the engine, and again, I'll see a small, very small improvement in gas mileage, but every improvement counts. How much better does this actually look on Project Spirit's original engine? See for yourself. Doesn't that look absolutely amazing? You would almost swear that the engine only had a few years on her, but it's still the original engine. She's never actually been rebuilt. She's had a few internal parts changed, but all in all, this is Project Spirit's original engine, coming up on 300,000 original miles, averages 40 miles to the gallon on the highway, and when you start talking about performance, she does lay down a tremendous amount of hate for such an anemic engine from the 1970s. All on a budget, all something that anybody can do at home on the weekend, and it can be daily driven. Folks, this to me is the way to go when you talk about keeping the classics alive, because now I can still drive Project Spirit every day, and she is fuel efficient, and she's an awful lot of fun to drive. So if you yourself are looking for a project that's on a budget, that'll last you for many years to come, and you can enjoy it every day and still take it to car shows and win trophies, this may be the route for you. So, there you have it. Project Spirit's original inline 6, just updated a little bit more. Well, there you have it, folks. One more step taken in keeping such a wonderful classic alive. My 1975 Ford Maverick, better known as Project Spirit. Let me say right now in closing that what I continue to show all of you here on the Prince Magnum channel is how to take these classic cars and do them on a budget where they're still able to be daily driven, and you can still take them to car shows and bring home trophies just like you see on Project Spirit's hood, and they'll last you for many more years to come. And to me, keeping all of the classics alive and well, that means something to me. Okay, so to be able to continue to show content like this to all of you just is an absolute joy to me. If it's an absolute joy for you, be sure to hit the like button. And if you want more people to be able to enjoy this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell icon, because the subscription button here on YouTube doesn't mean what it used to. And if you'd like to help contribute to the building of Project Spirit, go to my Patreon account at patreon.com/Prince Magnum, and for $1 a month, you can become a member of the High Mileage Club, and all of the money that goes into that account goes directly back into Project Spirit and helping continue to bring content just like you see in this video to the masses. All right, folks, let me give a special shout out to my friend Choice Games, who kind of helped with some of the finances in this project. And I'd like to give a very special warm shout out to my friend Third Gen 83, who continues to ask for more and more content about Mavericks, because he himself has a Maverick of his own that is absolutely just gorgeous. Has even had its own article in Hot Rod Magazine. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my lovely wife, Princess Feyru, who continues to let me do work like this to such an amazing car. As a matter of fact, I'll even have to tell the story of why we have Project Spirit, and the whole thing of Project Spirit really becoming the true star of the Prince Magnum channel. And really, a lot of the credit goes to Princess Feyru. So, all of that being said, those special shout outs right there, that brings us to the spot that I get to tell all of you, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. They just don't make very good bedfellows. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them today. You might take them for a ride in your classic car. And, as always, for every one of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.